this is Cloud Orca. In this video we're going to take you through what the overall difference is between a workflow and a process builder and two common use cases that are unique to each one. So first of all, workflow. So workflow rules are your go-to admin tool. They've been around for a long time and they're the more traditional area to automate certain tasks and certain functions within Salesforce. The most common ones are updating fields, sending emails, and creating time-based workflow tasks. So simply here, if we create a new rule, and from here I'm going to create it in an account. I'm going to call my rule test rule. And then here I could have some criteria. So it's criteria on every time that the record is created. Criteria based on every time it's created and edited, but I can't add a time-dependent workflow to it. And also when it's edited in any time, it's edited to meet the subsequent criteria. So here I can come in and I can say account and the account type equals customer, and then this rule is going to run every time. Okay, so save and next. Now I have a few options here in my workflow. So I can create a new task here. So if I go into here, you can see the fields that you associate with the task. You can see, so we've got assigned to, the subject, the due date, and again, I can have it due from here, trigger off a certain date plus X amount of days. I can send an email alert. And here I can choose the email template that I've got. And then again, enter a name in here, and I can choose to send it from a particular user. And again, meeting the criteria here. So a common criteria is like from an opportunity or from a case. I could update a field in here. So again, in here, I could update field. And any of these fields that I could choose to update when it meets that criteria. I could select to trigger a flow, or I could select to send an outbound message in here as well. But the most common ones are new task, new email alert, and field update by far. These are quite simple, very, very easy to do, very easy to set up. See, once I've created this workflow rule, I can simply click on it and activate it, and then that workflow rule will be active. So again, a workflow is something that is simple to create, easy to edit, but again, it's a little bit limited. So here we have Process Builder. So Process Builder is another go-to admin tool. And Process Builder is a little bit more robust than a workflow, a little bit longer to set up, not hugely longer, but at the same time, it will take you a little bit more time. So here we're going to create a new test process. And when you create it, there's a few options that you've got. So first of all, when a record changes, when a platform event happens, or when it's invoked by another process. So it could be another process builder or another flow. Most commonly, it's when a record changes. So here to select when a record changes, and now you can see straight away it looks much different to a workflow. So got a little bit of a visual builder here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add the account object, and I'm going to have when the record is created and edited. And here you can see now I can add various criteria. So account type is customer direct. And now you can see in here I can search my fields equals customer direct. Okay, so once I've now created my criteria, and here you can see it's branched off, So what happens when it meets this criteria? It can go on to perform a particular action. What happens when it doesn't reach the criteria? Here you can see nothing will happen and it will just stop, or I can simply add another criteria and I can go on and on and on. You can see a little bit different the way that it would be built out to workflow. You can add more than one criteria in a workflow, going back to the workflow we created earlier in here. So you can see that we can add criteria in here and then say it's one or the other. Okay, but in here again, this is a little bit more user friendly if you have lots of different criterias that you want to meet along the way. Okay, so now we're going to add an action, and here's where you really see the difference of the process builder and how it is set apart from traditional workflow rules. So here you can see we can select any apex in here. So if one of your developers or a Salesforce partner has developed an apex class, we can select it here and invoke it. This is a very, very common use here. We can physically create a record. So we could create a record here. If I click test, we could create any record from within Salesforce here. So I could create a contract from an account when it reaches that criteria, for example. Here, exactly the same as the workflow, we can find an email alert. We can trigger a flow in here, a lightning flow. That's a whole other tutorial itself. We can post a chatter. We'll post a chatter post if you would want to a user, to a group, or you could post it to the particular record that invokes this process builder. And again, loads of other different things you can do. Quick actions in here, we can create a Quip document if you have it connected to Quip. You can submit records for approval if there's an approval process defined for that object and it reaches that criteria. Or you could update this record. This is an interesting one here. You could either update this record, or we could update a record related to the account. So here you can see there might be a record related. So if you're trying to work on a child record, like a contact or an opportunity that's linked to an account, then you can update the account straight from the opportunity. So much more functionality that we can use in here. And we can put different actions in here. So if it reaches this criteria, we can even put multiple actions in. And then once we've added one action, we can then add a time-based action. So here you can see the process builder is very, very different to workflows when we start to go into more in-depth functionality. As a general rule of thumb, as a Salesforce partner ourselves, what we would do is create workflow rules for triggering a simple email alert, a very simple field update like an auto name with a quick formula in there, or creating a task. Those are very, very easily done, very quickly done, and easy to edit as well. If we're going for a more complex automated process, then we would use the process builder. So I hope that tutorial has been helpful in explaining the difference between a workflow rule and a process builder.